Ready to go.
Okay. Good morning and welcome back. We got a couple of mowers out on the trailer, so let's go have a look. So the snow's cleared off and now they're ready to work on. We got a pretty good deal on all three of them. And we're going to start out on the only one that's self-propelled and see if we can't get it running first. So I'll get it off the trailer and let's get started. Now the first thing I noticed on this one was no kill cable on it. So we're going to go ahead and tie strap it together. And we use the cutters to turn it off after we've tested it. So we'll go here. And now hold it and pull it tight. See if we can go a touch farther. There we go. So now she'll start if she's capable of running. So let's work our way around and get a look at the carburetor. We want to learn as much about this mower as we can before we spend any money on it. So the next thing we'll do is throw a little starter fluid in it and see if she tries to start. Hold the choke plate open just a touch. That's normal. Okay, so let's pull the top cover off real quick and see what we got going on underneath. Okay, the choke is stuck as anything on this one. See, I thought this was going to be a nice quick fix, but I guess not. This one's going to fight us all the way. But like I said, I got a good deal on them. And I've got one sitting around that we worked on a week or so ago. And if this motor fails, then we'll use these throttle parts to convert that one from a primer to a auto choke. Okay, you can see all the sediment here. This carburetor's definitely been sitting for a very, very long time. So there's just no telling what kind of shape she's in. And the choke is just stuck. So since we know we're going to have to put the carburetor off anyway, we'll just drown it in WD-40 and see if we can get it to move. Oh, she moved a little bit. Okay, we're just going to hold her open and throw a little bit of starter fluid in it and see what we get. Now let's give her a pull. Okay, let's give her a pull and see what we got. Okay, that's a good sign. That means we've got a good engine, and that tells us a whole lot. It tells us this motor is functional. It tells us that it's got compression, it's got spark, it's got everything, but the carburetor's a mess. So let's pull it off and clean her up. Okay, so first thing we'll do is pull the linkage off the top. That'll be a quarter. And this is your choke linkage. So take a lot of pictures right here. Go like straight down on it and take pictures like that, because it's not super obvious how it goes together later. So now let's get the... I'm using a 3/8 to take the carburetor bolts off. And once you get these two done, there's just a little piece of linkage back here, and that's it. See the little linkage right here. We got a spring going this way, and our linkage going the other way. Let's check for fuel. And if our fuel's empty, which as expected it is, we're going to go ahead and cut the fuel line because we know we're going to replace it later anyway. And it'll pop off this top linkage easy peasy, just like that. So let's go break her down and clean her up and see what we've got. Okay, I got the old fuel line off of it and the top layer of junk off of it anyway. So let's break her down and see what we've got. See, now the bowl in this one looks really good. Gasket looks okay. And the needle and seat I'm not going to worry about for now because they're going to need cleaned up pretty big. So what I'm going to do is run this through the ultrasonic and get it the rest of the way cleaned up, because there's just no telling what kind of junk might still be inside it. And if you look at this, that's old gas that sat and sat and sat. So she really needs a bath. Okay, while we're waiting for the ultrasonic to warm up, let's go ahead and run a wire through the jet. This is the reason that most mowers don't start, is that can just be the death of a lawnmower. This is what allows gas to come from the bottom of the bowl up into the motor. It sucks through this hole, but it feeds in through these holes. Now we're going for the center hole. And the side holes look good, but the center hole is quite clogged. There you go, now it's freeing up. Now you will see people use drills on these, but to do a drill on it, you need quite a bit of experience. I strongly recommend doing nothing more than running a wire through it. Okay, now that the top hole feels clear, we're going to do the side holes again to push through anything that might have fallen through. When we're done with this bad boy is going to start on the first pull. Usually straight out of testing, you may think I cheat, but the truth of it is they start the first pull. Once you have everything in the carburetor all straightened up, as long as you've still got a piston in place and you've still got spark and compression, she should run every time perfect. While we wait for the carburetor to cook, we'll go ahead and do the fuel line. The most important part of a fuel line on one of these Quantum engines is getting it the right length. That came off pretty easy, mostly because it's really old and hard. So what we're going to do is take the piece that we took off the carburetor and this, and measure them out and get them as close as possible to each other. And from our little backyard measurement, that looks about right. Let's pull the clamp on. Pull the clamp on. Let's pull the clamp off. Put the clamp up here and put the new fuel line in place. Now it's ready to go for when the carburetor comes back. And whenever you're working on a mower like this that you don't have any knowledge of the history, do the cheapest things first. Like right now, we didn't even cut fuel line until we heard the engine run, and so we know it's a savable unit. We'll get to the starter later because it's an electric start and I'd like to see her run. Now the carb doesn't look new, but she's cleaned up, and what's important is the internal passages are nice and cleaned up. So let's get her back together. Now if you don't have much experience doing these carburetors, take lots of pictures as you take it apart, because I've just seen the darndest things sometimes on these carburetors. I've even seen this float put on upside down. And of course it won't work, but there you go. A few pictures might save you a whole lot of embarrassment later. Okay, let's screw her back together and go throw her back on the engine. Now putting it all back together is pretty easy. You just go opposite of the way you took it apart. So the very last thing that we did was that. And then the next to the last thing we did was the fuel line. So we'll go ahead and get those two guys in place. And then we'll leave it there. And we'll go ahead and get the screws started. And if you do it this way with a power tool, run it very, very slowly to get started. Now, this fuel line is going to be a little bit arbitrary, mostly because it bends around a starter on this one. So the fuel line is longer than normal. There we go. And be nice and gentle with our screw gun. And that lined up nicely. And there we go. Give it a tiny bit of a snug. And you know what? Different people will tell you that you should put that round gasket inside the carburetor. Other ones say you should put it on the carburetor when you put it on. I personally put it on the carburetor before I put it together. That's just my preference. Okay, let's tighten down the auto choke. Runs freely? Yes, it does. Perfect. Okay, we'll tighten on the fuel line. And unlike the ones with the manual primer, this one will run without the air filter and air box on. We'll go ahead and put it on anyway. Okay. Where are you at, buddy? There you are. Notice we're being very gentle with the screw gun. Don't want to tear things up. We don't want to... Let's see what our air filter looks like. Our air filter is tolerable. It's better than what people would expect for a used lawnmower. Notice the 5/16 does basically everything until you get into it. Then you use the 1/4 and the 3/8 to finish it off inside. Okay, let's put her on the ground and give her a pull. Now I'm going to keep the video running on this one, just so the people that think maybe I'm cheating somehow, and there's no way they start on the first pull after all that work, we'll do it just like this. That should be enough gas. Now, in the time it takes to lower this down, she'll start. The gas will have found its way into the bowl. And that's it. I'm going to get my cutters so we can turn it off, because remember, we don't have an off switch yet. And let's give her a pull and see if she starts. I'm expecting good things, and we haven't done the spark plug yet. And she started on the first pull. So we ran that one straight through, just so you can see I'm not cheating. After sitting all those years, first pull, she started right up. 95% of the time, the problem with your mower not starting or being really hard to start is going to be the carburetor or the spark plug. Go for the spark plug first because it's easier. If you bought one that's been sitting for a long time, don't spend any money on it until you know that motor will turn over. Throw starter fluid at it and make sure she'll start, or at least try to start. Okay, so all you new people out there, if you made it this far, you might as well subscribe. It's free, and it's what we work for. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.